Hey guys, what's going on? So welcome back to the channel. This is Sonny Strauss and this is early Virginia and Maryland genealogy. So this time I'm going to talk about primary sources. What are primary sources and what are not primary sources? Now the reason for this is because a lot of people tend to just look at family search or find a grave and just assume that whatever's on there must be gospel, must be truth, must be primary source, and that's not accurate. For example, you may have heard of Ka-Oki, who was a presumed daughter of Pocahontas and Kewaukum. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. Now, there is evidence that shows that Pocahontas did, in fact, marry him for about possibly 2 years. That there is evidence to prove that prior to her marriage to John Rolfe. The evidence to show this person, Ka-Oki, is very slim. Just because someone posts something on Find the Grave, like a picture and a name, anybody can do that, meaning that doesn't give it credibility. So just because this shows up on Find a Grave and has these people on it, even if this shows up, that doesn't give it credibility at all. So please take Find a Grave with a grain of salt. Do not look at it as a primary source unless there's actual citations and primary source material on it. Again, find a family search, same exact thing. For example, you can see on my relationship to Ka-Oki, she, according to family search, when I put my information in, it says that she is my 9th great grand aunt. I can tell you that is absolute BS. That is not true at all. Because if I go all the way up my line, I can tell you this guy, Robert Bowling III, is not the son of John Bowling II. He is a son of Robert Bowling II, not John Bowling II. I do not come from John Bowling, because that would mean that I'm a descendant of Pocahontas, which I am not. I come from the aunt's this side. I've already done the research. So this is completely inaccurate. So when you're doing your own family tree research, this is why you need primary sources for each generation, because you may look at a famous person, Thomas Jefferson, or George Washington, or Ka-Oki, or somebody, and you look at this and you go, oh, this person's my third cousin, or this is it. You haven't proven anything. Just because it shows up on family search does not mean it's accurate. Especially because there's so many people who put inaccurate information on family search. So please do not take this as accuracy. I can tell you this is absolute BS, so don't take yours as truth either. You got to do the research first. So let's go through some examples of primary sources. So one that's pretty easy to understand is a death certificate. So death certificate is a government document showing the certificate death of an ancestor or relative, right? Certificate of death. Another thing that's primary source, census records, 1850 census record, 1860, 1910, 20, 30, 40, 50, all of those are primary sources. Even though it is possible that whatever you see on them may be inaccurate a little bit, maybe the birth date, where they were born, all that could be slightly inaccurate, but this is still a primary source of information. Also, wills. Wills are primary source records, right? They are as close. These are recorded. They are recorded wills. So anything that's in a will book from any place, see Will Book Volume 6. So wills are primary sources. Again, newspapers.com, genealogy bank, obituaries, and obituaries that show your information about an ancestor. They are completely primary source because they, especially now, make sure that when you find an obituary, it's from the actual time the person died, 1958. So if your person died in 1930, 1950, or 1860, whatever the date may be, make sure the obituary comes from that exact year or the exact time at which your ancestor died. Okay, here's a marriage record, and I marked all over mine to make it easier to read, but here's a marriage license, marriage bond. Those are primary source records. See, and here's Genealogy Bank. And here's something you can find, 1867. So this was reported on the exact year that was married of Major John William Henry Fitzhugh Lee, son of Robert E. Lee, to Miss Mary Tad Bowling, daughter of Honorable John Washington Bowling. So this shows a marriage of William Henry Fitzhugh Lee, son of Robert E. Lee, to Miss Mary Tad Bowling. Again, newspaper obituaries can be extremely helpful. So here's one from the exact day and time that my ancestor died, and it talks about how old he was, which is perfect for figuring out a birth date. And it says right here, Mr. Bowling was the son of Mr. George Bowling. So a newspaper obituary can tell you the parents as well. So this can act as a death certificate, except it's straight in the news column. It can tell you about his wife and who his wife's parents were, which is even more valuable, and maybe other relatives are mentioned. So a newspaper obituary can be more valuable than a death certificate. Also a primary source, because it comes from a newspaper column in the exact year that it happened. So here, if I were to go to the Virginia County Court of Goochland County, Virginia, all of these are primary sources. All these deed books, these are all primary sources because they're recorded deeds of way back in the day, stretching all the way back to the 1700s. So all of these that you see, if you find your ancestor in any document like this, regardless of what county or state it's from, these are all primary sources. It can be very, very tedious, but the reward is having evidence and making an argumentative case against someone, almost like you're a detective or lawyer saying, I have proven that I come from this person based off these primary sources. Again, don't use find a grave and accept whatever Family Search gives you as gospel of truth.